Good evening, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi concludes the first leg of five-nation tour, addresses the Parliament of Republic of Ghana, says progress cannot come without giving voice to the Global South. Prime Minister Modi en route Trinidad and Tobago, focus on deep-rooted cultural and people-to-people ties. Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill heads for final vote in the House of Representatives. Stance on defense expenditure, welfare measures, national debt divides America. Liverpool's Portuguese forward Diogo Jota dies at 28 in a car crash near Zamora, northwestern Spain. Prime Minister Modi's historic visit to Ghana has reinforced India's unwavering commitment to Africa's growth story. Prime Minister Modi addressed the Ghana Parliament, underlining that strong and stable India is vital for a prosperous world. DD India correspondent Tapush Bhattacharya gets us more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's historic visit to Ghana has reinforced India's unwavering commitment to Africa's growth story. During his two-day visit, the PM addressed a special session of the Parliament of Ghana, underlining that a strong and stable India is vital for a prosperous world. Prime Minister Modi also expressed gratitude to the President of Ghana and Ghanaian people for the national honour conferred upon him.
मैं इस सम्मान को 140 करोड़ भारतीयों की ओर से विनम्रता के साथ स्वीकार करता हूं। यह सम्मान मैं हमारे युवाओं की आकांक्षाओं को, उनके उज्जवल भविष्य को, हमारी समृद्ध सांस्कृतिक विविधता और परंपराओं को और भारत गाना के ऐतिहासिक संबंधों को समर्पित करता हूं।
Noting that India, as a mother of democracy, had embraced democratic ethos as part of its culture, the PM highlighted the deep and vibrant roots of democracy in India.
For us, democracy is not merely a system. It is a part of our fundamental values. From thousands of years ago, we have examples of centers like Vaishali. The Rig Veda, one of the world's oldest scriptures, says, Ano bhadraha kratavo yantu vishwataha. It means, let good thoughts come to us from all directions.
Calling for credible and effective reforms in global governance, Prime Minister Modi said the post-war world order is changing and no meaningful progress is possible without giving voice to the global south.
Institutions created in the last century are struggling to respond. The changing circumstances demand credible and effective reforms in global governance. Progress cannot come without giving voice to the global south. We need more than slogans. We need action. That is why, during India's G20 presidency, we worked with the vision, one earth, one family, one future.
Honoring Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's lasting contributions to freedom, unity and social justice, the PM also paid homage to Ghana's founding father at the Nkrumah Memorial Park in Accra, accompanied by Ghana's Vice President. Prime Minister Modi's Ghana visit marks a new chapter of trust, equality, and shared aspirations between India and Ghana, a partnership of equals for a brighter tomorrow.
With his historic address to Ghana's parliament, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reaffirmed India's commitment to Africa and to strengthening South-South cooperation. His visit marks a new chapter in India-Ghana ties rooted in shared values and aspiration. With camera person Rakesh, this is Taposh Bhattacharya signing off from Ghana's parliament in Accra for DD India.
And Prime Minister Modi continues to garner global recognition for his statesmanship and soaring popularity on the world stage. The latest honor he has been conferred with the National Honor of Ghana, Officer of the Order of the Star of Ghana by President John Mahama. Here's a roundup of the prestigious accolades that Prime Minister Modi has received in the recent months.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been awarded Ghana's national honour, the Officer of the Order of the Star of Ghana, in recognition of his distinguished statesmanship and global leadership. Accepting the award on behalf of 1.4 billion Indians, Prime Minister dedicated the honour to the aspirations of the youth of India, its cultural traditions and diversity, and to the historical ties between Ghana and India. This is not the first time that India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been conferred with such state honours. In June this year, he received Cyprus's highest honour, the Grand Cross of the Order of Macarius III. In March 2025, Barbados conferred on him the Honorary Order of Freedom of Barbados. The award was presented by the President of Barbados and accepted on the Prime Minister's behalf by Minister of State for External Affairs, Pavitra Margarita. In the same month, during Mauritius's National Day celebrations, PM Modi was awarded the Grand Commander of the Order of the Star and Key of the Indian Ocean, the highest civilian honour of Mauritius. He is the first Indian leader to receive this recognition. In April, Sri Lanka honoured him with the Sri Lanka Mitra Vibhushana Award, the country's highest honour for foreign leaders. It was also the first time this award was presented to an Indian leader. Last year in July, he was officially presented with Russia's highest civilian honour, the Order of St. Andrew the Apostle. Though it was awarded to him in 2019, he received it in person in 2024. The award recognized his key role in building a strong strategic partnership between India and Russia and promoting friendship between the two nations. In November 2024, Nigeria conferred upon him the Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger, its highest honor. He became only the second foreign leader to receive this award, showing the high regard for his global leadership. That same month, the President of Guyana, Dr. Muhammad Irfan Ali, awarded PM Modi the country's highest national honor, the Order of Excellence, for his visionary leadership and his support for the rights of developing nations on the global stage. Also in November, PM Modi was honored with Dominica's highest national award, the Dominica Award of Honor. The award recognized his leadership, support to Dominica during the COVID-19 pandemic, and efforts to strengthen ties between India and Dominica. In December 2024, the Amir of Kuwait awarded PM Modi with the Order of Mubarak al-Kabir, Kuwait's highest national honor. At the heart of these global recognitions lies Prime Minister Modi's vision, one that focuses on the well-being of all humanity and on peace and dialogue. Whether addressing conflict, climate change, or terrorism, the Prime Minister's message remains clear. The world must stand united and work together to find lasting solutions. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
And DD India correspondent Taposh Bhattacharya is joining us live from Accra. Taposh, give us a broad sense of how Prime Minister Modi's visit provides a fresh new momentum to the relations between India and Ghana.
Right, Shubhendu, let me just start with the fact that there are a couple of points that we need to discuss. The first is definitely the bilateral trade. Prime Minister Modi said that currently the bilateral trade stands at approximately $3 billion. They believe that in the next 5 years, they have kept an ambitious target of touching or doubling that target of almost $6 billion. So that's one part of it. The other part is to provide Ghana with technology that they require to jump from where they are to becoming a developed nation. So Ghana see India as a big brother, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that they will do whatever they can, and it's a mutual relationship. So they have to understand the fact that Ghana possesses natural resources. Now India requires it as being a fastest growing economy. India requires critical minerals, rare earth materials for its technological companies, especially to prepare semiconductor chips. So if you require that, and Ghana is full of rare earth materials. So that's something that India has been talking about. Also in terms of having something like a UPI in Ghana, or opening the fintech, providing fintech services to Ghana. And at the same time, what Prime Minister today spoke in the Parliament about providing Ghana, sending their team from Election Commission to go there and give them a heads up of exactly what they can do and learn from the mother of democracy. So those are some of the major points. Obviously, the 4 MOUs that we see that are absolutely there, but in those 4 MOUs, there are finer points. The devil is in detail. So you have to go in the details and then realize the fact that the 4 MOUs is expected to pave way for India-Ghana relation to go to the next level. Right now, Prime Minister himself said that it is in the comprehensive level. So to reach the comprehensive level, the 4 MOUs will play a pivotal role, and at the same time, the trade that currently stands at $3 billion, they want to increase it to $6 billion. Right. So that's something that it's ambitious target. So in the last 2 decades, it stood there almost at $3 billion. Prime Minister Narendra Modi wants in the next 5 years to touch that $6 billion target.
Right, Tapas. And the visit, would you say, would be remembered for many memorable moments as well, from being personally received by President Mahama at the airport to the highest civilian honor, Order of the Star of Ghana?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no denying the part that when the president himself goes and receives the head of, the prime minister, the head of the state of Ghana is going to receive Prime Minister Modi, it shows the warmth, the relationship that both the countries want to take forward. The other part is something that one realizes today when we were there in the parliament. Each and every parliamentarian who was there were praising Prime Minister Modi, stating that he is a statesman, not just talking about India, but he's talking about the world. He's talking about the South-South cooperation, the global South cooperation. They said that when Prime Minister spoke about the fact that in India we have 2,500 political parties, every single MP was actually looking at each other and whispering, "Is that possible?" In fact, they asked the Prime Minister, "Is that possible?" And Prime Minister said, "Yes, we have it." And then, when he had a chat with them, they said that, in Ghana, they have only 2 political parties and they don't know what to do. And both parties are at loggerhead. And here, you guys have 2,500 political parties. And still, you guys managed to do everything well. So they said that we want to learn from you how you guys managed to do unthinkable like this. And we want to come there. Prime Minister himself told them to please come over. In fact, in the parliament, we met 2 people, 2 parliamentarians who wore Indian attire. One had a Indian turban, and the lady wore a beautiful Indian attire. So that shows the kind of warmth, that shows the kind of relationship they had, and all of them spoke of the fact that they believe that India is their big brother, and they want India to help them, develop further in their aspiration to be a developed nation. Shubhendu.
Tapas, thank you for those updates. Still to come on DD India News Hour. We deliberate on the highlights of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Ghana. Four killed, several left critically injured in shooting outside Chicago club.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. The partnership between India and Africa stands out for its diversity and shared vision. Over the past decade, this relationship has transformed into a dynamic and strategic engagement, which has bolstered by Prime Minister Modi's Ghana visit. This report has more.
India-Africa Connect is a dynamic and evolving partnership that spans diplomacy, trade, development and cultural exchange. Over the past decade, India has significantly enhanced its diplomatic, economic and strategic ties with Africa, guided by Vision Sagar or security and growth for all in the region, which was recently expanded to Vision Mahasagar or mutual and holistic advancement of security and growth across regions for Global South. India maintains regular high-level exchanges with Africa, such as the India-Africa Forum Summit and the India-Africa Business Conclave. The country currently has 46 diplomatic missions across Africa. The African Union became a permanent member of G20 during India's presidency in 2023. The Africa-India Key Maritime Engagement was inaugurated on April 25, 2025 in Tanzania, marking a significant step in strengthening bilateral maritime cooperation. Indian peacekeepers have been serving in multiple UN missions across the continent, including the Democratic Republic of Congo. Emphasizing sustainable and people-centric development, India has provided over $700 million in grant assistance to African nations. This covers medical aid and food. Made in India vaccines were supplied to 42 African countries during the COVID pandemic. India has extended e-visa facilities to at least 33 African countries. Bilateral trade has reached $100 billion with a target of $200 billion by 2030. India's exports to Africa are valued at $45 billion, while imports from Africa are valued at $38 billion. Key areas of collaboration include manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare, and renewable energy. The relations have been bolstered by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's historic visit to Ghana, the first by an Indian Prime Minister in 30 years. Diplomatic ties between India and Ghana were established in 1957. India is the largest destination for Ghanaian exports. Ghana's main export to India are gold, cocoa, and cashew nuts. While India's major exports to Ghana include pharmaceuticals, agricultural machinery, transport, vehicles, as well as electrical equipments. There is a sizable Indian community in Ghana numbering over 15,000. During Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit, India and Ghana signed 4 MOUs to strengthen cooperation in culture, health, standardization, and institutional dialogue. This visit also boosts India's engagement with the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, and the African Union. India has held observer status in ECOWAS since 2004, with a focus on sectors like agriculture, energy, infrastructure, and technology. India is a significant trading partner for ECOWAS, which currently has 12 members. Encompassing various domains, India-Africa partnership is poised to become a model for South-South cooperation. Bureau Report, DD India.
And to dive deeper into Prime Minister Modi's visit to Ghana, joining me is Ambassador A.R. Ghanshyam, a former senior diplomat. Good evening and welcome, Ambassador Ghanshyam.
Thank you.
A visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Ghana in 30 years. What would you say the key takeaways from Prime Minister Modi's historic visit?
The first thing that I want to say is Ghana is a very important country in Africa. It has the geography of Uttar Pradesh, population of Punjab, and GDP of Telangana. It's a small country, but it has enormous facilities, enormous assets of its own. And if you look at it closely, it is holding oil worth 7 billion barrels, and gas, which is about 6 trillion cubic feet. And it has great stocks of diamonds and cocoa. It's the second largest producer of cocoa after Ivory Coast. 70 to 80% of the cocoa the world requires. All the chocolates that are made across the world in Europe, United States, and elsewhere, the cocoa comes from Africa. And this cocoa comes from Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, basically two countries. And it has gold, it has manganese, and it has magnesium, and it has also stocks of rare earths. And this is a country which was one of the earliest countries to become independent as far back as 1956. Whole of Africa was colonized by the European Union. Now there is union role is with Europe. So it is between 1526 and 1872, about 12.8 million able-bodied men and women from West Africa and Southern Africa were transported like sardines in a fish can, tied ankle to ankle by chains and neck to neck chains. More than 2.5 billion people died traveling transatlantic oceans in ramshackle ships. At that time, the population of Africa was in 1600 it was 60 million, and in 1800 it was 82 million. You can imagine what happens if out of 82 million, 10, 12 million just disappear. All the able-bodied people. 4 centuries, Africa didn't grow at all. Today, it is now growing with vengeance. In fact, today, every 6th human being in the world is an African. In 2050, every 4th human being in the world will be an African. And in 2100, every 2nd citizen of the world is going to be African. And this population has to be educated, it has to be fed, and it has to be employed to make their living with dignity possible. So these are the 3 sectors which Africa is providing to the rest of the world. I would say I'm writing a book. The title of the book is Africa, the Continent of the Future.
Right.
Because if half the population of the world is going to be coming from there,
right. In fact, sir, if I can take a cue from what you're saying, you established the significance of Ghana as a nation for its resources and the importance of the partnership. But can we also see it as an important gateway, as it were, for India as far as ECOWAS is concerned, the Economic Community of West African Nations, or the African Union as a whole? So India's partnership with Ghana also has an important role to play in that larger engagement.
Absolutely. Because if you look at the map, West Africa has 2 countries which are considered important and close to us because they speak English, Ghana and Nigeria. And these 2 countries put together, the population of Africa will be more than 30% of the population, because between the 2 of them, they have enormous population strength and they have good education systems and they speak excellent English. And there is a large community of Indians who have stayed on there in this continent from the colonial days. And many of them are contributing now. Some of them may not be holding Indian passports. Some of them have held British passports or American passports or even other European passports, but they have settled down there. They're contributing to it. 700 companies of India in Ghana is not a joke. And in Nigeria, for instance, the 2nd largest employer in the country after the government of Nigeria is supposed to be the Indian industrial enterprises. So we have a great role to play in this. Sometimes we are compared with China and say that, oh, the FDI from China is more, the infra is more, that and this. But if you look at the real sectors, 3 sectors that are absolutely essential for Africa to join the main league of other continents of this world in the next decades, they are health, education, and agriculture. These 3 are the sectors in which India has the strength better than any other country in the world as of now. Yes, manufacturing, we may not be at the top. But if you look at the small and medium scale, we are still the best in the world. Africans know it. They want us to go there with our small and medium scale sector. They want us to help them in agriculture. They want us to help them in education. It's easier when they speak English. There are 19 countries in Africa which speak English because they were British colonies. The scope is enormous.
Right. On that note, Ambassador Ghanshyam, appreciate you joining us on the News Hour and sharing your perspective. As Prime Minister Modi prepares to visit Trinidad and Tobago, we look back at a profound tale of resilience. 180 years since Indian indentured labourers, also known as Girmitias, first set foot here. Our story traces their journey from colonial hardship to becoming pillars of this nation's identity.
On the 30th of May 1845, the Fatal Razak arrived in Trinidad carrying 225 Indian indentured labourers, or Girmitias, the dawn of a transformative chapter in the twin island nation's history. 1845, the Fatal Razak arrives in Trinidad and Tobago with 225 Indians. 1845 to 1917, 143,939 indentured labourers landed in Trinidad and Tobago. 1902, over half of sugarcane farming managed by Indians. 1962, diplomatic ties formalized post-independence. 2025, Indian Trinidadians and Tobagonians form 42% of the population. Over 180 years, the Indian diaspora preserved its culture, built thriving communities, and now stands proudly at the nation's helm, with Indian origin Kamala Prasad Bisesar as Prime Minister of the nation. Clearly, though the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago had a hard landing on the nation's shores, it has weathered many a storm to emerge at the top of its society.
Primarily, our forefathers came from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, and they brought with them a lot of folk traditions, including their Ramcharitamanas, which is still hugely popular here in Trinidad and Tobago. Our forefathers were simple but profound persons. They were simple in the skills that they came with, but they were very profound in the value system that they came with.
Earlier this year, Prime Minister Modi, speaking in Mauritius on the Girmitias or indentured labourers, recounted the hardships of the community and how, despite the difficulties, the Girmitias kept their culture alive.
आपको जानकर खुशी होगी कि भारत सरकार गिरमिटिया साथियों का एक डेटाबेस बनाने पर काम कर रहा है। मॉरिशस और गिरमिटिया कम्युनिटी से जुड़े अन्य देशों के साथ मिलकर भारत इंडेंचर्ड लेबर रूट्स अंकित करने पर भी काम करेगा।
This year, the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago is celebrating 180 years of the first indentured labourers landing in the nation.
Well, geographically, India and Trinidad and Tobago are thousands of miles apart. Culturally, they're as close as two countries can be together. And that is due to the living bridge of Indian diaspora that resides here, that has built this country and now comprise about 40% of the total population of this Caribbean country. And this unprecedented and historic visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to bring the two countries even closer together, economically, culturally, and in several other aspects of society. And this is also going to write a new chapter in the ties between the two beautiful nations. With camera person Modoiki, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
Some other stories now. At least 18 people were shot, 4 fatally on Wednesday during a drive-by shooting on the north side of Chicago. This according to the local police. The Chicago Police Department statement said that the incident occurred at 11 p.m. local time when someone in a dark vehicle driving past a crowd on a sidewalk fired into the group. Multiple news outlets reported a nightclub in the River North neighborhood was hosting an album launch party. According to the police, the deceased victims were 2 men and 2 women. Police said they have not made any arrests and the investigation continues. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. US President Donald Trump will talk to Russian President Putin on Thursday. Trump wrote on his social media platform that he will be speaking to President Putin of Russia at 10 a.m. on Thursday. However, he did not say what the leaders would discuss. The US trade deficit widened in May due to falling exports, but weaker imports may still help boost second quarter growth. Trade had dragged quarter one GDP down by a record 4.61%, contributing to 0.5% decline. A rebound is expected, though muted by weak consumer spending Economists say Trump's tariffs have distorted trade data and will take time to normalize. Chile fights drought with small mats of human hairline as the base of plants, helping lock in moisture for crops in orchards. The hair, which is turned into sheets and discs of compostable mulch through mechanical weaving, reduce direct evaporation by 71% and save up to 48% of irrigation water. Sotheby's auction is set to put forth the original prototype of Hermes Birkin bag, famously crafted for and worn by singer-actress Jane Birkin. The bag was created specifically for Birkin in 1985 by the then Hermes CEO Jean-Louis Dumas after a chance meeting on a plane where the artist complained about her overstuffed bag. Still to come on DD India News Hour. All you need to know about Trump's mega bill: slashes aid, hikes defense budget, rewrites taxes. The monsoon session of India's parliament, to commence from 21st July, will conclude by August 21st.
The US launched a bombing campaign against Iran. The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Our top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi concludes first leg of five-nation tour, addresses the Parliament of Ghana, says progress cannot come without giving voice to the Global South. Prime Minister Modi en route Trinidad and Tobago, focus on deep-rooted cultural and people-to-people ties. Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill heads for final vote in House of Representatives. Stance on defense expenditure, welfare measures, national debt divides America. President Trump's tax cut and spending bill, which is set to extend Trump's 2017 tax cuts, steep cuts on health and food safety net programs, including a $5 trillion US increase in the nation's debt ceiling, is advancing towards a final yes or no vote. Let's understand some of the key items and highly debated issues in the bill in our report by Ayushi Bhatnagar. The One Big Beautiful Bill is a sprawling piece of legislation exceeding 1,000 pages that aims to deliver on several of Donald Trump's campaign promises from the 2024 elections. This package honors many of Trump's campaign promises, like boosting military spending, funding a mass migrant deportation drive, and committing $4.5 trillion to extend his first-term tax relief. It also includes a $5 trillion increase in the nation's debt ceiling. Let's take a look at some of the key items and highly debated issues in the bill. President Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act seeks to make the cuts permanent, a key priority for Senate Republicans. 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act lowered taxes and increased the standard deduction for all taxpayers. Bill will increase the standard deduction by $1,000 for individuals, $1,500 for heads of households, and $2,000 for married couples. The bill exempts tips and overtime pay from federal income taxes, proposes to gradually phase out the benefits based on annual income, benefits to expire in 2028, right before Trump's term as president ends. Child tax credit would permanently increase to $2,200 under the Senate bill. The bill also proposes raising the debt ceiling by $5 trillion, more than the $4 trillion approved by the House last month. Lifting the debt limit will allow the government to pay for programs already approved by the Congress. Rise in the deduction limit for state and local taxes from $10,000 to $40,000, though after 5 years it would return to $10,000. The bill would slash Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, which helps people afford groceries. Senate bill requires states to contribute more to the program, would reduce food stamps by around 20%. The bill also cuts Medicaid, which provides health care to poor and disabled Americans. Childless adults without disabilities would be required to work at least 80 hours per month from December 2026. Shift in re-enrollment to Medicaid from once a year to every 6 months. Bill proposes to lower provider taxes from 6% to 3.5% by 2032. The bill would fund new sections of the border wall, increase surveillance, and build more detention facilities. Immigration and Customs Enforcement will receive $45 billion for detention facilities, subsidies and tax breaks for clean energy projects. Bill proposes a new tax on clean energy projects. Wind and solar power projects will face a new excise tax. The One Big Beautiful Bill is projected to increase the GDP by 0.4 to 0.8% over a decade, boosting investment and creating some 6.9 to 7.2 million jobs. It is set to strengthen border security with $150 billion for defense and immigration enforcement. However, Medicaid and SNAP cuts may leave 7.8 million uninsured by 2034. Ayushi Bhatnagar's report for DD India. And for the latest on that mega bill, DD India correspondent Saurabh Shukla joins us live from Washington, D.C. Saurabh, first bring us up to speed with the legislative process. Where does the bill stand now, and how easy or difficult would it be for it to clear the House?
Shubhendu, it's a very, very crucial piece of legislation for President Donald Trump, if you ask me. And as we talk, the House is debating the bill. In fact, the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who's from the Democratic Party, he's speaking. And under the House rules, it's a little strange that some of these key officials, they can take as much time as they want, almost 7 hours. So he's expected to speak almost 3 hours more. And this is just a delaying tactic by the Democrats. The Republicans have been trying very hard. In fact, yesterday night, I was talking to some sources in White House. They had White House officials reaching out to the House Republicans, because there were 4 dissenters in the Republican parties, and one more had joined them yesterday. And their aim is that to persuade them somehow to vote for the bill, because this is one of the most a bill which not only served President Trump's electoral agenda that he promised, it is also a matter of prestige for him, and he has personally put his prestige on line here, and that's the reason why the Speaker Mike Johnson and his aides, as we talk, are trying very hard to secure, the numbers. As you have said, this bill will lead to some tax cuts, but also there's a lot of fear amongst those opposing the bill that it will take away Medicare for a lot of states, including some of the Republican states as well.
Saurabh, let's get into some finer details. The bill has also garnered attention for its peculiar name. Now, who will find the bill truly big and beautiful? Who are its biggest beneficiaries once it passes, if it passes?
Well, one obviously is that, President Trump is known for his, I would say, boisterous names. And in fact, this name comes from the fact that he seems to have coined it. This is his own personal agenda. What the White House is saying that this bill will not only boost US economy, it will also add almost $10,000 to the pockets of average Americans. This is something which obviously is being debated. Some of his own key allies, people like Elon Musk, who were earlier supporting President Trump, has now kind of completely opposed to this bill, even though he's outside the US government now. But he has been saying that this will add to the US debt even more. So there the House is divided, if you ask me. There are some who say that it will spur the growth in the US, but on the other hand, there's worried about the marginalized Americans losing Medicare and even food stamps, even though there is a provision in the bill which says that they will spur people to make sure that they're working and not taking these food stamps and Medicare, and the fraud that will be minimized. But the critical part of the bill is that it will get almost $90 billion to President Trump's dream projects, which is one, building a border wall, and also to enhance further enforcement by the immigration and border authorities by giving more money to these authorities. Shubhendu.
Right. Saurabh, also, as you mentioned, the manner in which it cuts down on the welfare investments into welfare measures, particularly Medicaid and food stamps, is also in focus. Help us understand how is the administration justifying this measure in particular?
Well, I've been speaking to some administration officials, and their version is that what they're trying to do is not to cut Medicare altogether. What they're trying to do is to make it more efficient by making sure that any fraud or abuse is curbed. And the second thing is they want to put in some measures where able-bodied persons. So earlier what was happening is that the SNAP, which is essentially the food stamps where people would get some free food to buy, these stamps to get groceries and things like that. They are making sure that anybody who's able-bodied, they have to minimum work for 80 hours a week or something to make sure that they are eligible for those stamps. So they're trying to spur some economic activity here because they're feeling that otherwise the government was getting squeezed and the state was paying for a lot of people who could have otherwise worked but were making use of these food stamps.
And Saurabh, if I can just put in a number, the critics say some 17 million Americans who are at the bottom, the economic bottom of the society, may be impacted by these measures, the welfare measures.
Yes, absolutely. So that is a matter of big debate, and obviously we have to wait and watch once and if this bill indeed passes, because President Trump has given July 4th, as you know, July 4th is America's birthday. He wants it to be a symbolic day where he can sign this bill, and that can only happen if the House passes this. As you and me talk, even though the White House has made all-out efforts to make sure that the critics are taken away from, from saying no, especially from the Republican Party, but we have to wait and watch. And if this bill indeed gets signed, we have to wait and watch how much of an impact it will have on some of these, measures, especially concerning Medicaid and food stamps, because they not only impact Democratic states, but also the Republican states as well. Shubhendu.
Right. Also, the bill, as we understand, embodies many contradictions. On the one hand, there is promise of more jobs and GDP growth, but it's also pushing the national debt through the roof to the order of about $3 trillion in the next decade. That's more than the combined GDP of many developing countries put together. How will that really work?
Well, absolutely. That's what is a big concern being raised by some of the economists here. But the White House believes that not only through some of the measures that he's saying, for instance, President Trump has been talking about more tariffs. He's been talking about increasing the US visa fees. So they're saying that some of the measures which are riddled in this bill or a part of this bill will actually create more, economic activity and also get in more revenue to the US exchequer, and that will tide over and this crisis, so to say. But the fact remains, the critics, including, as I mentioned, Elon Musk and some of the others, have been saying that this will only bankrupt the US. So the jury is out. We have to wait and watch on how this will pan out. But this is one of the most interesting piece of legislation that I've covered, in more than 3 decades that I've been covering US politics here. And there is a lot of political activity, here in Washington, D.C. as you and me speak, and we will have to wait and watch on how this bill pans out.
We'll have to see how House of Representatives decides the fate of the bill. Saurabh, thank you very much for joining us with those updates. Still to come on DD India News Hour. South Korea's parliament revises martial law rules. Indian cabinet approves National Sports Policy 2025.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Let's take a look at some more stories making news in India. The monsoon session of India's Parliament will commence from 21st July and conclude on August 21st. Minister of Parliamentary Affairs Kiran Rijiju on Wednesday said President of India approved the government's proposal for convening the monsoon session. The session will be the first since Operation Sindoor, and opposition parties are expected to raise several issues. India conducted successful operation by deporting 18 illegal Bangladeshi nationals apprehending in New Delhi's Ashok Vihar area. The foreigner cell seized 7 smartphones found to have banned IMO app, which was allegedly used to maintain contact with their families back in Bangladesh. India's Niti Aayog launched a report on chemical industry named Powering India's Participation in Global Value Chains. According to the report, India eyes some $1 trillion chemical output by 2040, igniting India's chemical transformation. It would result in 7 lakh additional employment by 2030. Sri Amarnath Yatra pilgrimage to the Amarnath Cave Shrine in Jammu and Kashmir began with offering a first prayer at the cave today. 38-day-long Yatra, which will culminate on August 9th, is being conducted through Baltal and Pahalgam routes. The Yatra sees lakhs of devotees trek through the Himalayan terrain to pay and pray at the Holy Cave Shrine. South Korean lawmakers have voted to revise the rules around martial law. The rules bar any attempt to obstruct lawmakers from entering the National Assembly. This comes after former President Yoon Suk-yeol's short-lived martial law order last December, which plunged the country into a political crisis. Here's more. I declare martial law to protect the Free Republic of Korea.
And with this declaration of then South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol on 3rd December 2024, martial law was imposed on South Korea. Yoon declared martial law as his political troubles grew from parliamentary deadlock to corruption scandals. The crisis shook South Korea, which had endured decades of military rule before holding democratic elections in the late 1980s. Yoon himself was impeached and removed from office and is now on trial for insurrection. On 3rd December 2024, military forces gathered in front of the National Assembly and lawmakers had to scale the walls at night to vote down Yoon's order. Taking lesson from this shocking incident, South Korea's parliament approved on Thursday a revision to rules governing martial law. The new rules bar any attempt to hinder lawmakers from entering the National Assembly and prohibit the military and police from entering the National Assembly without the approval of the Speaker of the National Assembly. South Korea hopes that the revision in rules would prevent dictatorial approach of rulers and ensure that democracy remains intact in the country. Bureau Report, DD India.
Indonesian rescuers raced to find victims in rough seas on Thursday after 5 people died and dozens were left missing. The incident took place when a ferry carrying 65 people sank near the island of Bali. The KMP Tunu Prathama Jaya sank almost a half an hour after leaving East Java province port on its way to Bali late on Wednesday. The boat was carrying 53 passengers and 12 crew members, as well as 22 vehicles, the national agency informed. 35 people have been rescued so far. The East Java Rescue Agency said that the rest are still missing. According to Indonesia's Transport Ministry, the ship was rated to carry 67 people and 25 vehicles. Moving on, Europe is battling dual threat of fierce wildfires and an intensifying heat wave, with several countries struggling to contain the escalating crisis. In Greece, hundreds of firefighters continue to battle wildfire that broke out on Crete Island. The flames fanned by strong winds have scorched forests, reaching homes and hotels, and forced the evacuation of over 1,000 people. Across the Aegean, Turkey is also reeling from forest fires. One person has died and authorities were forced to shut down a major highway as flames approached. Meanwhile, much of Europe is sweltering under an early summer heat wave. In Italy, red alerts have been issued in 18 cities, with temperatures hovering near 38 degrees Celsius. So far, 4 people have died in France and Spain due to heat-related illnesses. In Switzerland, the soaring heat even led to the shutdown of a nuclear reactor, highlighting the scale of the disruption. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for sports. And Liverpool's Portuguese forward Diogo Jota, aged 28 years, died in a ferry car crash near Zamora in northwestern Spain with his brother. Jota, who got married on June 28th, helped Liverpool win the Premier League last season and also won the FA Cup and League Cup with the Merseyside outfit. Jota arrived at the Anfield from Wolverhampton Wanderers in 2020, scored 65 goals in 182 appearances for club in all competitions. He also made 49 appearances for Portugal, twice winning the UEFA Nations League. The Union Cabinet has approved the National Sports Policy 2025, a landmark initiative aimed at reshaping the country's sporting landscape and empowering citizens through sports. Union Sports Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia spoke about the policy in Delhi. He said it aims to strengthen India's position in global sports. The policy will boost the nation's sports infrastructure, will also support India's bid to host 2036 Olympic Games. He said it will help India become a global sporting powerhouse. The goal is to make India a strong contender in international events, including the 2036 Olympics. India will aim to break into the top 10 by then. The long-term vision is to reach the top 5 by 2047. The policy also seeks to involve the corporate sector in sports. This will drive rapid changes across disciplines. The sports minister added that good governance will also be a key focus. In other news, the Pakistan men's hockey team will be allowed to travel to India for next month's Asia Cup and Junior World Cup later this year, Sports Ministry source confirmed on Thursday. While bilateral sporting ties between India and Pakistan remain suspended, the government has made it clear that it will not stand in the way of Pakistan's participation in multinational events held in India. The Asia Cup is scheduled to take place in Rajgir, Bihar from 27th August to 7th September, while the Junior World Cup is slated for Chennai and Madurai from 28th November to 10th December. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan this QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.